is the morning after a very frustrating night. Yes, OU wins. Yes, they are 2-0 on the season, but a lot of questions, way more questions that we even had a week ago. Where is this offense at right now? A lot to unpack here. As OU wins it 16-12 over Houston, but again, it was a night of frustration and another night where offensively they just they couldn't get it going. Couldn't get it going on the ground. Couldn't get it going with big plays. Offensive line struggled once again. I really hoped that I would wake up on Sunday morning and maybe feel a little bit better than how I did before when I went to sleep on Saturday night. That's probably pretty delusional of me to think that there was even a chance that when I woke up on Sunday morning that I would feel anything better or somehow better about a 16-12 win over a Houston team that's going to be one of the worst teams in the Big 12, and a Houston team that you were a 28-point favorite against. Probably pretty delusional to think that that was going to be the case, where I wake up and somehow feel better about things. I woke up and I think I feel worse about things after thinking about last night. I don't know what their identity is right now offensively. I don't know what they're trying to do offensively right now. And I think the thing that's really concerns me the most about this offense is it's not just one thing. And I know the quarterback is getting the majority of the blame right now, and I got question marks about him as well. But I wish I just had questions about the quarterback. I wish I just had questions about the offensive coordinator. I wish I just had questions about the offensive line. But it's everything right now with this offense, guys. And drop your comments in. We'll get to those. Would love to hear your reactions from last night's game. It's everything with this offense. They can't find a rhythm. They can't find continuity. The offensive line isn't creating anything in the run game. Jackson Arnold looks very timid. He doesn't look confident. He looks very unsure of himself. He's not looking like a guy that's commanding the offense. Wide receivers outside Deion Burks, there's just not a whole lot there right now. Running backs aren't giving you big plays, though maybe Javonte Barnes did a couple of nice things last night. It's just everything with this offense. And I actually want to go back to the live show I did yesterday before the game. And these are the three things that I wanted to see heading into the Houston game. And I thought that these three things were very fair asks by me against an opponent like Houston. I wanted to see better offensive line play. I wanted to see legit wide receiver 2 play outside of Deion Burks. And then I wanted to see big plays on offense. I didn't get it. We didn't get any of that. We definitely didn't get better offensive line play. I mean, this team, once again, struggling to run the football against a team that they are way more talented than, a team that they shouldn't be struggling running the football against. Wide receiver number 2 play, if there is a positive offensively right now, I guess it's at tight ends. Like Jake Roberts ended up having a pretty good day. Bauer Sharp, you feel good about what you have there. So, but outside of that, I mean, Jake Roberts was your second leading receiver, 3 receptions, 51 yards, and a touchdown. I didn't see better wide receiver 2 play outside of Deion Burks. And then big plays on offense. Brennan Thompson had a 33-yard gain. Jake Roberts had a 28-yard gain. But again, no big plays from the offense to speak of. Where are the big plays from the offense? Why can't this offense be aggressive? Why can't this offense hit on big plays? They can't do it in the downfield passing game. They can't do it in the run game right now. And I thought going into the year, I do want to go back to what I thought about this offense and what it was going to be going into the season. I thought going into the season, okay, I really like your wide receiver core. I like their wide receiver core. I think they'll be solid at running back. Like skill positions overall, I think they'll probably be pretty good. You got a young but very talented quarterback. And I cooked in mistakes were going to happen with the young quarterback with Jackson Arnold this year. But I also factored in that if nothing else, and mistakes will happen, and you got to live with some of those mistakes with the young quarterback, but this is going to be a big play offense. Yes, Jackson Arnold will make some mistakes, but at the same time, he's going to hit on a lot of big plays down the field, and this is going to be an offense that generates a ton of big plays. And I definitely thought that we'd be talking about that after opponents like Temple and Houston. Like, these are the games right here where you should be racking up those big plays. Not only are they not an efficient offense right now, 28 carries for 78 yards, 2.8 a carry last night against Houston. Not only are they not a big play offense, I mean, they're struggling getting first downs at this point. I thought, if nothing else, that this offense would be able to hit on a lot of big plays this year, and that ain't happening, man. That ain't happening. I'm concerned, guys. I don't know about the rest of you. I'm going to guess that you're probably right there with me as well before I get to a couple of these comments. I'm highly concerned about this offense because if you're not moving the ball consistently, if you're throwing for 174 yards against Houston, Tennessee's pretty good. Tennessee looked really good against North Carolina State. Texas looked really good against Michigan. I mean, we know what's coming up in SEC play. And if you're scoring 16 points against Houston, which I say you scored 16, offense didn't score 16 points last night. That's another thing. The defense got you 2, and a muff punt got you a short field in the first quarter. So how many drives did you have last night where you went, you got the ball, you took the ball down the field, and you scored without the defense, helping you out with the safety or without a special team mistakes on the other side? One. You had one drive where you looked good and you went down and scored. One. The entire game against an opponent like Houston, they got beat by 20 by UNLV in week 1. That ain't good enough, man. This offense has got to figure it out, and they've got to figure it out in a hurry. Because I thought all last week is, this team has a deadline date. This team has a deadline date of September 21st when they take on Tennessee. The offensive line issues that you have, the wide receiver question marks that you have, the quarterback situation that you have, all the things that need to be better. Well, your deadline date as a football team is September 21st because the Tennessee Vols are coming into town. Guys, in my mind, that deadline has changed. That deadline has actually moved up. No longer is it September 21st. That deadline is September 14th. It's in 6 days. It's next Saturday. Because Tulane didn't beat Kansas State yesterday, but Tulane can absolutely come into Norman and beat you next week. You look anything remotely on offense like you did last night, Tulane can 100% come in here and win. And then what do we think about this team? If you're a 2-1 football team coming out of 3 non-conference games, you have the Tennessee Vols coming into town. I don't know, guys. It's not great offensively. Martin, what's up? Seth is in over his head, and Jackson Arnold is just average. The backs are average at best. We didn't have one receiver on the field over 6 feet. Yeah, I still think Deion Burks is really good, but what else do you have offensively right now that you feel is good? And even though I think Deion Burks is good, he had 9 receptions for 53 yards, along of 15. I mean, he had a lot of catches, but he really didn't hit on any big plays last night. And that's the thing, Martin, is you mentioned Seth is in over his head. Jackson Arnold's just average. The backs are average at best. You mentioned the receivers. You didn't even mention the offensive line, all right? I mean, which is probably the biggest issue with this offense right now. I don't know if Seth is in over his head. Is it too early to make a final judgment on Jackson Arnold? I think the point is, Martin, and the point that I just made a couple of minutes ago is it's not just one thing about this offense. And I wish it was just about one thing with this offense, but it's not. There's so many things offensively right now that are busted, that are broken, that need to be fixed, and I don't know what the answer is. I don't really know what you do moving forward because you can scheme some things and you can do some different things as a play caller in an offense, but you can't – if you can't block anybody, that's not sustainable. If you can't run the football consistently, if you can't run it for more than 3 yards a carry against a team like Houston, that's not sustainable in any league. I don't care if it's the SEC or what. Houston's going to be one of the worst teams in the Big 12 this year. I think they were picked second to last in the conference this year. If you can't run the ball, if you can't protect against a team like that, then it's got to change. It's got to change in a hurry. What's up, Chief? Tyler, we're not a good football team. Looking at a losing season. Texas and Tennessee will crush us. Not sure Jackson Arnold is the answer either. OC needs to be evaluated. Yeah, Seth Luttrell's got to figure some things out. And, I watch other teams. You mentioned Texas. I'll bring up Texas because I watched that entire Texas-Michigan game. I thought that Michigan was going to make that game into a street fight, and I wasn't really sure if Texas was down for a smash-mouth street fight type of football game. And that's why I thought that Michigan was going to win the football game because they were going to get Texas into the deep waters there in a situation that maybe they're not comfortable with. But from the get-go, man, Sark scheming plays up. Guys are open, tied in the middle of the field. Sark is really, really good at scheming guys open. I haven't seen OU's offense scheme anybody open. In fact, it never feels like anyone is open with this offense, right? I mean, it just feels like everything is such a struggle in the run game, in the passing game. Nothing comes easy for this football team. You should be the team where it feels like at times a 15, 20-yard gain is easy. It's schemed open. You just got better players than them. But everything is just so difficult for this offense, man. So difficult. We'll be lucky to score against SEC teams. Yeah, some better. I mean, that's the thing. If we feel like this now, it's not like OU just played. We're not judging the performance based on the two best opponents that OU is going to face this year. In fact, look at it this way, and this is not a fun way to look at it, but it's the reality of the situation. You won't have two easier back-to-back games the rest of the year than what you just had. You won't have two consecutive games that is as manageable as Temple and Houston. Tulane and Tennessee are your next two. That's far more difficult than the two games that you just played. Auburn and Texas, far more difficult. Hell, throw in Maine at the end of the year. You're going to back that up with an SEC team in front and on the back of it. That was the easy part of the schedule. That was the confidence-building portion of the schedule. And that's what we should be talking about today on a Sunday morning is, hey, the offense looks good. The offense is clicking. Jackson Arnold seems comfortable. Offensive line's doing some nice things, getting a push. These were the 2 weeks that we should be high on this offense, that we should be saying great things about this offense, that the wide receivers outside Deion Burks look great. Tight end position, it looks fantastic, which, again, I do think that is maybe the bright spot of this offense right now. The tight end position is more of a thing, but it's going to have to be because I don't even know how many weapons they have right now. And you can say, well, wait till they get Nick Anderson back. I don't think just inserting Nick Anderson back in the fold automatically makes this offense better. Not drastically. It might make it better. But if they can't block up front, Jackson Arnold can't make quicker decisions, we're talking about an offense that's in real trouble here, guys. And, again, that was the 2 games where you should have a ton of confidence coming out, and you don't. And we're talking about an offense that may be as bad potentially as we've seen in a while. Been a long time since the OU offense looked this up. Jeff, I didn't even read that before I put it on screen, but perfect comment at the perfect time there. Yeah. I mean, seriously, I heard some John Blake comparisons last night. I mean, what maybe since the 90s. And maybe this offense gets better, but I just don't see an immediate fix right now. I don't see an immediate fix. There you go. See, again, we're witnessing a John Blake team. I lived through it, and it was painful. Larry says, I texted you when BV was hired. It would be Gary Gibbs all over again. The money involved in college football now, it won't last 5 years like Gibbs. Bad hires on offense. Here we go. The offense will be the ultimate undoing this year if this team doesn't end up being competitive and it isn't the team that we thought and hoped it would be before the year. I will say this about this team. I think the defense is good. And I thought the defense was good last night. It got you 2 points. Offense wasn't able to do anything with it. It got you the big interception late. Offense wasn't able to do anything with it. I think this defense is good, but this defense can only be, so good, right? I mean, the offense, once again, I'm not saying this defense is perfect, and I'm not even trying to tell you that this defense is best in the country. I think this defense is good. But it can only be so good when this offense routinely puts the defense in tough situations. 1 of 12 last week on third down against Temple, and now 4 of 14 on third down against Houston. I mean, look at these stats, guys. Houston had more total yards than you. Houston had more passing yards than you. They didn't have as many rushing yards as you, but, I mean, you only had 78. You didn't even have 80 as a team. Time of possession dominated. This is something we've been talking about for 3 years now. OU's inability to win time of possession or for it to even be close. I mean, if you didn't know the final score from last night and you just looked at this right here, you just looked at these final stats, you say, wow, OU got beat by Houston. And I'm thinking they're in the fourth quarter. If Houston goes down and, they go take the lead, I don't trust this offense to go down and score. I don't think that this defense is perfect. I think it's good. I definitely think it's the strength of this football team. But this offense has got to, help out this defense a little bit. Consecutive 3-and-outs that they have, defense will get a turnover and give them a short field. Go down and score. Take it. They can't do anything with it. And there's a lot of areas where I'm disappointed with the offense last night, but maybe more so than just that is you've struggled all night long, but the defense gives you opportunities. I'm going to try to find it here. Here it is. 3rd and 14. Houston has it at the OU 21, and the pass is intercepted. So it's a 14-12 game, and you've got it at the 32-yard line, and you do nothing with it. In fact, you literally didn't get any points. You go down and miss a 45-yard field goal. So where are we at now all of a sudden with Tyler Keltner? Great week last week, but they followed it up with the missed 45-yard field goal. Not great. Special teams took a step back. And, man, I was just hoping, guys. I was really hoping that this team would grow a lot from week 1 to week 2. We knew that wasn't perfect against Temple. Week 2, we're going to come back, and we're going to look like a lot better team. We're going to instill that confidence back within the offense. It felt like they took a step back. And I do think Houston is a better football team than Tulane, but I don't think Houston is a good football team. Robert says it's multiple things, but they had all spring and summer and fall camp to get them to the point of establishing an identity. They don't have one right now. At least I don't think that they have one. What is this offense trying to do? What is their identity? They're not really throwing the ball down the field. They're not running the ball. I mean, what is it? Just an offense that can only move the ball and can only score when they're going hurry up? I don't know. What's your prediction for OU's win-loss? A bad offense will cause our defensive guys to get hurt. I said 9-3 before the year. I mean, I can't. Unless things drastically change, not just drastically change offensively, this looks like a 7-win football team to me, right? I mean, what we have today, the evidence that we have today about this team, look, I'm fine with winning ugly. That's okay. I don't need to win games 56-50 or 42-35. I don't need to win games like that. I'm fully prepared to win ugly. But there's a difference in winning ugly against Tennessee or Texas or Alabama and then winning 16-12 against Houston. There's no pretty side. That's an ugly score against a bad team. I'm not okay with that. And the way that they won last night is not sustainable because this defense is good. I believe that. I believe this defense is good. But this defense isn't good enough to shut down Tennessee to a number where the offense, could put this team in a position to win. This defense is good, and I think it could limit Tennessee. I think it could limit Texas. I think it could limit Ole Miss. I think it could limit some of the better offenses that you have on the schedule. But unless this offense can do anything with that and take advantage of opportunities and play complementary football, it doesn't matter how good this defense is. And that's my real concern sitting here today on a Sunday morning is that I think OU will have good defenses moving forward with Brent Venables. But how many times are you going to have a guy in Danny Stutzman who might be the best linebacker in college football? He played really well last night, by the way. Danny was good. How many times are you going to have a guy like Billy Bowman in the back end of your defense that is one of the front runners for the Thorpe Award? The point is I'm at a point through 2 games where I'm really nervous and concerned that they're going to waste a defense that's good, that's really good. This is the best defense they've had in over a decade. Again, I'm not saying that it's perfect. It's got some things that it needs to clean up as well. But it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And I'm a little concerned that this offense is totally going to waste a defense that's the best one that you've seen in over a decade. Because this defense is good enough to get you where you want to be at the end of the year, but this offense is not. This offense is not. And it's not just the fact that the offense isn't scoring, that the offense isn't efficient. The offense right now is putting the better side of the ball in tougher situations, in situations that I think is very unfair to the defense. So if people are critical about the defense coming out of tonight, or last night, defense won you that football game, guys. Because the offense didn't do much. The offense had one drive. One drive the entire game against Houston. Team that lost by 20 to UNLV. And I believe they were down 27-0 very late in that game to UNLV last week. So what are the answers? I mean, I still like Deion Burks. You can't throw it to Deion Burks every single down. I like the tight ends. Jake Roberts had one of the best games of maybe his collegiate career last night. I think Bauer Sharp's pretty good. But you can't just throw it to Deion Burks and your tight ends every single play. At some point, this team is going to have to be able to run the football. And they can't do it right now. They can't do it in short yardage situations. They can't hit on big plays. Like, Jackson Arnold looks very unsure of himself. It really looks like he doesn't have a lot of confidence. And that's a bad spot to be in because, again, these two games, there is a reason why college football teams schedule teams like Temple and Houston. These are confidence-building games, right? Non-conference games, confidence-building games for a young quarterback. And your young quarterback just doesn't have a whole lot of confidence right now. I'm not sitting here calling for Michael Hawkins. I know some are. But here's the thing. It goes back to it's not just one thing offensively. And could Michael Hawkins do some things in the run game? Yeah, I think so. But what's Michael Hawkins going to be able to do behind a shaky offensive line? Behind an offensive line that can't run block? But with some receivers that can't catch the ball consistently. I don't – Jackson Arnold's got to be better, but I'm not the guy that's calling for the backup quarterback right now because I don't think his situation is necessarily great for any quarterback right now. Garrett, what's up? So in your opinion, where do you start with the O? What is the first step to right the ship? I've been thinking about that since the postgame show last night. I don't know. You've got to get more creative in the run game, I guess. I know the RPO stuff is a bit maddening. I don't know if that's overall what's best. I guess I'll start there, Garrett. You've got to figure out ways to create holes in the run game. And you can only be so creative. At some point, you're just going to have to knock someone on their ass, right? And you're just going to have to dominate someone up front. But you've got to get creative in the run game at this point. Use Jackson Arnold more in the run game moving forward. And maybe that was the plan all along after the first 2 to 3 games. Maybe they'll do that. But at what point do we say, okay, even with the young quarterback that looks kind of unsure of himself, at what point do you say, we just got to be an air raid team and just air the thing out? Like, I hope that they find a way to run the football. I hope that's the case, which, by the way, Gavin Sawchuk, has been MIA. Apparently, they think Javonte Barnes is their best back. He had 12 carries last night. Tatum had just 1. Sawchuk had 4. Jackson Arnold had 11. So you did see Jackson Arnold involved in the run game. But that would be my guess, Garrett, because, again, I don't know what their identity is. What are they trying to do? What does this offense want to be? At the end of the day, you got to drive to go win. What do they want to do? It's hard for me to even answer that question because I don't even know how they'd answer that question. Because through 2 games, I don't know what they're trying to be on offense. It's not a good situation. Not a great spot. I do wonder if at some point, though, if they just say, we got to throw the ball. We got to throw the ball as much as possible, and it's not ideal, but it's what we got. Next week's a big week. OU has opened up as a 14.5-point favorite over Tulane, by the way. I know a lot of you are probably logging off now and rushing to the online betting site of your choice to go pick Tulane plus 14.5. Talk them off the ledge. Robert, I wish I could. Again, I'll say this. I think the defense is good. But at what point does that not matter because your offense has this many issues? It's not a good situation right now. That's for sure. Seth Luttrell, you got this job. This is a big boy job. Offensive coordinator at OU. Criticism comes with the territory. It happens with every single offensive coordinator. And he knows that. He even said that last night. This is a big week for Seth Luttrell. It's a big week for the offense overall. Heck, I thought this last week was a big week for the offense overall. Big week for the offense and a big week for Seth Luttrell. They got to come out with some creative stuff, scheme some guys open because it ain't good enough right now. Jeff, previous Luttrell offenses have put up good numbers. His schemes have worked elsewhere. This must be a function of poor offensive line play. I think that's the base of everything. I think that's the root of all the issues right now. Because, when he had a quarterback, Mason Fine at North Texas, they put up some good numbers, and we're at Arizona before that. He's done some good things offensively before. That's the reason why he got this job. accomplished before in other spots to lead you to believe that he could come take this OU offense and do some nice things. But that's the root of all the issues is the poor offensive line play. And that's where this offense is in a really tough spot because, I had the question earlier from Garrett, so what do you do? What's the first step in righting the ship? There's only so much you can do if you can't block anybody up front. And they can't block anybody up front right now. So it is a function of poor offensive line play, but they got to figure out a way to get the quarterback a lot more confident as well. Because it all starts up front in the trenches, Jeff. That's exactly right. Oh, boy. Big week coming up. Tulane Greenway, who gave you one heck of a football game a few years ago in Norman, right? And now they controlled, it felt like a majority of that game against Kansas State. They didn't win the football game. They lost 34-27, but this team can absolutely come in and beat you. And I've been circling that Tennessee game. That's your first big game. That's your first big game. You should roll through non-conference, and that hasn't been the case. You haven't rolled through non-conference play, unfortunately. Let's look at these numbers, man. 19-32, 174 yards passing. QBR of 37. Barnes had 40 yards on 12 carries, 3.3 a pop. Your longest run of the night was 13 yards. Couldn't even get a 15-yard run last night. And then just the receiving numbers there. Reagan's got in. Brennan Thompson hit on that big 33-yard of the longest play of the night, but it is just not good enough. And again, the three things I wanted to see last night: better offensive line play, legit wide receiver 2 play, big plays on offense. I thought they'd at least hit on big plays on offense this year, and that hasn't been the case. I am curious why they're not throwing downfield that much. Like why? Because I thought that this was going to be an offense, and they have been an offense. They were an offense. Even in the Alamo Bowl, that looked like they wanted to put a lot of pressure on opposing secondaries. I'm just not buying into the whole all vanilla hype. I'm not buying into that now. I think I could have bought into it a week ago against Temple, but even if you get creative right now, if you can't block anyone up front, it just really doesn't matter. All right, that'll do it on this Sunday afternoon. We will check in here in a couple of days to see what's going on. Let's get Robert in here. What about them fighting Irish? There's something positive. Is that at least you weren't Notre Dame yesterday. You played poorly, very poorly. I think Brent Venables even said that you should have lost the game last night, but at least you didn't get beat by Northern Illinois at home by a field goal. Though I really thought we were heading in that direction late in the fourth quarter. Defense saved you yesterday, and I think the defense is going to have to save you moving forward. Incredible amount of pressure now on this defense as we move forward with things because they can't take a week off. That's just the reality. This offense is not good enough against every single opponent you play from here on out, outside of Maine. This offense is not good enough to carry you single-handedly to a victory. So I think this defense is good, and I think this defense has been good through the first 2 weeks of the year. That's going to have to continue to be the case because if the defense has a night where they just don't have it, and they're letting up too many big chunk plays and too many yards, then you're going to get embarrassed, man. I think this defense will be okay against Tennessee. They better be more than okay against Tennessee because that Tennessee team that I saw last night against North Carolina State looked real good. And not just offensively, they look good defensively too, holding North Carolina State to just 10 points. So we'll talk about it all this week. Thanks for all the comments, all the interaction as always. Enjoy your Sunday afternoon, and hopefully the mood improves because this offense, not sure what the answer is here moving forward.